Jeff and Paul from Erewash Sound to talk about their training academy.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much indeed for inviting us along. It is an absolutely fantastic place, and I'm certainly going to take advantage of the offer of looking around later, because it sounds absolutely wonderful, and what a lovely space it is as well. So I'm Jeff Martin from Erewash Sound. This is my colleague, Paul Stacey. And all we're going to do really is just go through our training journey that we've gone through at the radio station, and Paul and I are going to do it together. So I'll hand you over to Paul for a bit of an introduction.
Thank you, Jeff. So what we wanted to share with you today really is how we got to delivering training at Erewash Sound. So a little bit of a background to us, a quick journey that we launched our FM licence back in March of 2010. We got a second frequency for extending our coverage back in 2020. But going back to the early days, before we launched on FM, why did we say we're going to do training? Well, to be fair, it was in our application to Ofcom because we thought it looked good at the time. That's why it was there. We hadn't really thought through at that point what training was actually going to look like when we actually got on the air. So when we got underway at the start, so back in the early days, to be fair, we can probably, go back to what you were saying about being in the church in the early days of Black Country Radio and the heritage there. We were just in a single room at the time. So there was a media centre being built at a school, the Bentley Business and Enterprise College up at Cotmanay in Ilkeston in Derbyshire. That's where we were based. But the media centre wasn't built at the time, so we're actually offered the former headmaster's study, and we're all into one room. A very cold room where if you put the heater on or the kettle on, there was a risk that everything was going to blow, the fuses in the room. It wasn't great. So when it came to training then, actually what we had to offer was quite limited because we actually only had the on-air studio. That was all we had. So really, the training was pretty much the legals. Don't swear on the radio. You've got local content to read. Play your ads on time. Get to the news. Don't be controversial. They were pretty much the things that we had. And if you could operate the desk, you were pretty much good to go. So, quite often, someone who came to us as a new volunteer, they'd sit with an on-air presenter. They'd say, yep, this is how the desk works. This is how Myriad works. And they were off. And that's how we started, really. But what we started to realise is that maybe wasn't enough.
So we were very inconsistent. So we had some good presenters and we had some really poor presenters, but that wasn't their fault. That was our fault. We'd put them in that position without training. We got little quality, little inconsistency. Something needed to change. I'll tell you a little story, if I may, which really hit it home to me. So we had a feature from the start called 2 at 2. Not the most creative thing at all, but pretty much it's 2 songs back to back and you can associate your name or whatever with it. And we had a lady on the air and we suddenly realised we had a bit of a soap opera going. So I'll change the names so we keep these people secret. Not as any of you know them anyway. So Cliff had messaged in on a Monday and said, I'm really looking forward to meeting Mary tomorrow night and having that lovely meal that we'd promised ourselves. And the next day, Mary had messaged in and said, can you say hi to Cliff? Really looking forward to going to the pictures with him tomorrow night. And then, next day, Cliff had messaged in and said, I've missed you for 2 days. I can't wait to see you on Saturday, which was really, everybody was hooked. So about a week, 10 days later, I'm at my day job and my phone is ringing off the hook from our then chairman. And he said, Jeff, it's all breaking loose down here. We've got a woman in the school reception and she will not leave. The police are being called. She wants to go to the studio to rip Rachel's head off. I'm thinking, what the heck's happening? It turns out the lady who was in the reception was actually Cliff's wife, and they'd been playing the affair out over the airwaves of Erewash Sound. And I'm thinking, wow, we really do need to do really need to do something about training. So one of the first things we do, anybody who actually applies to become a member of Erewash Sound, join the team in any way, shape or form, we every 6 weeks or so, we have a little introduction event. So they come to us and we do a little presentation, we give them a tour of the studios, and then if they think we're the sort of organisation that they want to be involved in, then they can come and join us. And we kind of get the people then that are really keen. Instead of just taking anyone and just having a really long membership, and then often people drop off, the few that we actually get at the end of that introduction are usually the ones that are really keen, and then we can go on and train.
So the introduction session that Jeff mentioned, that is really how people get to know us at the station. So when people come to us, they come to us for about an hour. And it's for them to get a bit of a feel for what it is that we do. So we cover all the things that you can see behind me. We give them a brief history of the station, what it is that we do, what we're looking to do, where our money comes from, the music, what we expect of the team. And also, importantly, we talk about the roles and the opportunities that are available up front. Because there is always a perception that if somebody joins as a member at the radio station, that ultimately they're going to be going on air. And as we'll be talking about with the training is that's by no means a certainty. But what the real important bit for the introduction session is that it's like a sifting process. Because people will come to us with expectations. And if they don't marry up with our ethos, the way that we work, then actually it's a chance for them to come and spend an hour with us and go, you know what, that's not right for me. But typically, if we've got 10 people who come to see us, we'll have 3 or 4 people that think, you know what, actually, I really want to join up with you, and I'd be really interested in the training courses. So it isn't a given that people sign up as a member and get involved. The introduction session is really where we start that process and then ask, would you like to become a member at the end of it?
So anybody who wants to work on the air side of Erewash Sound only does so after they've gone through one of our training programs, whether that be as a presenter, as a producer, as a newsreader. If you want to work on the air side, you need to go through one of our training programs. This is where, you know, we now can start to raise, or we did start to raise, the consistency and the quality of our output. So we do full comprehensive training courses for presenters, producers, newsreaders. And one of the things that we did introduce, which was a bit controversial, was a £60 charge for this. And the reason we did this is because what we realised, because our training was of such quality, that we were getting people who were being sent to us from BBC Local Radio, from global people like that, to do training that never did any work for Erewash Sound. Again, another quick story. I had a lady came to me. She'd been doing some work for BBC Radio Nottingham. She asked for some presenter training. BBC Radio Nottingham said to her, go along to Erewash Sound. They're good. And she came to me and said, look, Jeff, I've got a journalism degree. I'll be your news editor. Fantastic, like that. We gave her the full training program. She went away. 3 weeks later, she rang me and said, really sorry, Jeff, can't do any work for you because I've now been just given the producer of The Breakfast Show on BBC Radio Nottingham. So we'd done all the work. BBC Radio Nottingham get the reward. So what we do now is we do charge people a £60 fee. We do, though, say, once you've done some work for Erewash Sound, like 10 shows or something, if you'd like us to refund that money, we're perfectly happy to do so. It's just so if we train people, at least we get something out of it. And to this date, we've been doing this about 4 years now. To this date, we've never had anybody actually asked us for the money back. They're grateful for the training and they love to get involved in the radio station.
So our bread and butter for new members is presenter and producer training. So these are the 2 strands that when people come to us, that generally they'll take the path down. So the presenter training, you'll see some of the things on the screen that are behind me, but actually, if you want to read through all of this, it's all on our website, academy.erewashsound.com. But essentially, we're covering all the elements that a presenter will need to know. Things like branding, how important that is, and how it relates to other products as well beyond radio. Things like storytelling, the things that people don't necessarily realise that it's all about engaging in radio, as well as going through all the legals and listener interaction. But ultimately, what we're getting people to do with the presenter training is get to a point where they can create a demo for us. And this comes back to what we'd said before, is that it isn't necessarily a given that someone is going to be able to present for us. But if they want to come through the training, we'll give them all the opportunities that they can to do it. So presenter training is followed by studio desk training and how to use the playout software, and ultimately get them into the studio to go under their own steam to create a demo. Producer training is off a slant from that, because we realised there was a gap with our presenter training, is that for those who wanted to be off-air but be heavily involved in radio content, there was a real issue that actually it was really heavy on what a presenter needed to do. So the producer training is very much focused on the behind-the-scenes ideas, and the producer training was heavily influenced by someone who works as a producer at BBC Radio Derby. So things like writing for radio, how to do cold calling, trying to follow up a story, things that really bring content to life is what the producer training focuses on. But there is also still that option to do the studio desk training at the end, because even if a producer has no aspirations to broadcast on the air, knowing how to operate the studio, operate the desk, really gives some flexibility for when they are teaming up with an on-air presenter.
So the actual presenter training that we deliver really falls into what I call these 4 pillars, really, which fall into branding, the music, the delivery, and the legals. Some of the things, of course, will cross over. So, for instance, if we're talking about social media, that can sit with the brand, can sit with the delivery, and also sit with the legal side of it. But most of the things that we train when it comes to a presenter, we feel can sit into those 4 big pillars, and that sort of is the start of our journey when we work with new people.
But when it comes to the training itself, I mean, what we really focus on is bringing it to life, because when people are coming to us for 5 or 6 weeks, spending a couple of hours at a time with us, is that things can be really dry if he just sat in the classroom. And let's be honest, there is a lot of stuff that we need to get through in the classroom. But we've got things like activities of the brand game. So you can actually see this is when we developed our training to go online, is that we had to think of ways of making our very physical games actually to work in an online environment. But it does, and we can make it happen. This is all around getting people to think about how a particular listener and things that they like would marry up with a particular station. So understanding that stations have a brand that appeal to certain people, and they are different, and people's listenership of stations will change. On the producer course, things like making phone calls, so kind of doing a cold calling stint and lining up people who are ready to take those calls. Speed interviews, things like speed dating, getting people going around the room, getting them talking to other people. But above all else, one of the things that you may not think about with training from a radio perspective is homework. And the reason that homework is really important is if you think about all the preparation of content that you would do for any show, you're going to be doing stuff under your own steam. And the homework is really getting people into that process. So having tasks, things to go and write, things to research to bring to a future session, all brings it together as really just being more than just being talked at.
We also have a lot of fun with those activities, I've got to be honest as well. It really is a lot of fun. And we have a saying at the radio station as well, people who train together, stay together. Those friendships and relationships are formed right there. So the actual goal is to, as Paul was mentioning earlier, to actually create a demo. And the way this happens is it's not just like a 5-minute demo that you would maybe put together for the Community Radio Awards, for instance. This is, the way we work our demo is that they literally go through an hour from the news junction at top of the hour through everything we've taught them to the news junction at the top of the next hour. We then sit down, go through some feedback. They go do another demo. We feed that back. We average out at about 3 demos before they've hit the the quality that we're looking for to be part of the on-air team. As Paul mentioned earlier, some people never make it. We will keep going. I think we've got up to 7 demos where people are making the improvement. If after 4 or 5 demos there's not much improvement, we may have to have a conversation. It's not for them, because people may be passionate about radio, but not everybody can do it. I mean, I was passionate about football. I always have been. And when I was at school, I just played football all the time, but never made the school team. Well, it's not strictly true, actually. I did make the bench once when there was a neurovirus on, but I never got on. It did make up the numbers. So it's a bit like that. So we can still harness their passion for radio. There's lots of other things that we can, lots of other things around the radio station they can get involved in and make a real contribution to. And, as much as we love working with people and we give them as much time as we can, obviously there isn't an unlimited amount of time that we can invest. So, we want people that are passionate, and we don't want to lose anybody, but they may not all end up on air. It's me again. I'm just trying to get off. So, the benefits, obviously, of training is, of course, upskilling our community. That's really, really important. And that can be upskilling them in all sorts of ways. But through our Media Academy, communication skills are really important, and confidence. The one thing that we see all the time working with people, often people who come to us are kind of like radio, but they're really shy, and some of our best presenters actually are people that came to us were really shy. There's a guy called Reese who works for us. I remember he came, we did his presenter training, and it was really hard work. I had to keep saying, can somebody answer this? Nobody but Reese, to try and actually get him involved. And his demo, smashed his demo, one demo, and he's done. Absolutely wonderful. And of course, all that leads to people improving their life chances as well. We work in the most deprived area of Derbyshire, so there is lots of opportunity to improve people's life chances there, and we're very proud that we do that. It's also a way of attracting new members. So if we run little courses and stuff, people are like, well, we'll come and see what you do, but actually, I think we wouldn't mind staying on and doing something, which is really good. The other thing that we really do, which again we're very proud of and is very powerful, we've heard some of this as well through the chat earlier with Black Country Radio. We love to work with partners. So we've worked with local authority housing groups. We work with a company called Majatu, which is based in Nottingham, and they've just expanded into Derby, which is great, and also into Reading, who want us to do some online training for them. They work with kids that are involved with things like knife crime, who've maybe had a period in a young offender centre or something like that. So we work with them as well. And of course, the good thing about training is a potential income stream. So if you're working with partners or you're delivering training, you can get, funding for things like that, which is obviously we are all looking for funding.
So I just want to move on to where the Academy is going. So the Academy we see as a very focused area of the radio station. So going beyond presenter and producer training, we really felt strongly that to be taken seriously, we needed to get accreditation. We've done that. We've successfully got accreditation with NCFE, who accredit vocational qualifications. But we just want to sort of get across that although the benefits are incredible, it is really hard work to get there. So Jeff and a colleague spent 18 months going through all of the paperwork and the policies and everything that needs to be put into place before you can even teach anyone. But although NCFE have been incredibly supportive, one of the things you kind of need to remember is that a lot of the times that although assessment criteria are written for existing courses, like creating a radio programme, for example, you still got to design the course yourself and meet those objectives. There isn't an off-the-shelf course that you can then deliver. The way that NCFE in particular works is that they look to subject matter experts to be the ones that determine what goes into the course. So obviously, being from a community radio background, NCFE were very happy with our credentials. You know, had to see our CVs for who's going to be training, and are very happy with that. But the actual course itself still has to be written. So we have delivered an assessed module with our first cohort of students, but it was only one module of a level 2 qualification around creating a radio programme. We've still got to finish that journey to complete an entire course. But it's one of those things that the work in progress, the support we've had from NCFE, the feedback, the knowing what we need to do in terms of tracking students, updating progress, it's been incredibly beneficial in taking us on that journey. But why would we do it? Well, I mean, to be fair, from a student's perspective, you think about as an income stream for your courses, is actually taking away accredited skills is something that is really important. You know, these have got educational credits attached to them. So whether this is seen as supplementary to someone, or indeed thinking about those who may not be into mainstream school system, is that courses on the NCFE programme could actually be part of their education and provide the credits that they need to take away some qualifications at the end of school age. So thinking about what we deliver as typically from the age of 14 upwards, you know, we're not just talking about working with adults. But it gives all of your training credibility. And indeed, with NCFE, they are very open as well to looking to accredit your own courses as well. So the ones that we've delivered so far around creating a radio programme, the criteria for assessment has been written by NCFE. But obviously in the future, we could look to accredit our own presenter and producer training and actually have an NCFE qualification at the end of it for our students who do that. And the other thing as well is that thinking around funding as well is that if somebody's going to take something away from the training, so from accreditation, is that it really does support the case for funding bids as well.
So, yeah, going back to how things help with the community, another very, very quick story. We had a guy came to us through his wife who was really depressed. In fact, she was talking about he might do something silly. We put him through our presenter training, lifted his confidence, never quite made it on the air as a presenter to start with, but then went on to do news for us. He does now present, but he, through our training, through the work we did with him, not only found a job, but actually is now managing a store in Ilkeston. And we've got lots of stories like that. But finding students is an issue. It can be difficult to start with, but like I say, we work through partner organisations. We work with lots of community groups, I've mentioned before. Guess what? We advertise on the radio. Now, there's a good idea. So we do that as well. Obviously, social media, Facebook, etc. And we also hold events, which we didn't manage to do through COVID, but we are doing again now at schools, colleges. We even do jobs fairs and things like that. So, yeah, students, you can attract them in very, very different ways. Not the easiest things to do, but if you get a programme rolling, then it certainly works.
So just to sort of bring what we've been saying to a close, I mean, how we measure our success is by our students. And we'll highlight a couple of case studies in a moment, but, you know, 22 people who have trained with us, who have been volunteer presenters with us, have gone in to get paid work in the media, and we're really proud of that. And these are the things that we talk about when people come to us, is the fact that obviously we love to have people come with us and present with us, but we don't get hung up on how long they spend with us. If they come and contribute to us and then go on into paid work, that is massive kudos for us as a radio station and also as a training organisation. So that's how we measure our success. You know, we're building people's life skills, we're getting them into work, but ultimately, you know, we get really good volunteers for the radio station. That is fundamentally why we do the training. All of the other things we've talked about are really around the add-ons and successes. So we're just going to highlight a couple of case studies before we finish. So Jeff's going to introduce Emma Snow.
I think there's a few people in the room that know Emma, isn't it? Yeah, so Emma came to me at 14 years of age, said her mum and dad had sent her down because she actually hadn't got an interest in radio, she wanted to work in TV. So we put her in through our training program, and now her passion for radio is great. She's won 2 community radio awards. She's worked for Global. She's worked for a couple of other stations, and now she's just been given a BBC local radio contract. She does a lot of their social media, but she also produces. And for anybody who's in the East Midlands area, you'll now often see her popping up doing features for East Midlands Today, which is our BBC TV regional station. And all that started right at Erewash Sound, which I am immensely proud of. And the thing about Emma, everywhere she goes, she's really proud of it as well.
And a completely different path, really. I just wanted to highlight Matt Freeman's story as well. So when Matt came to us, sort of way more than 5 years ago now, but he just came to us with an aspiration to do radio, like many people who will come through your door will do. So he went through our training course, and at the end of it, you know, he was absolutely smashing his demos. And because at the time he wasn't in work, he was doing our drive time show 5 days a week, just off his own bat. And he was brilliant at it. He was entertaining and he was engaging. And whilst he was doing that, he also took on some freelance work at INRIX, which actually got him known to some other stations around the area as well by doing their travel reports, for those who aren't familiar with INRIX. But I think, aren't they based around here? Somewhere close by. Yeah. Yeah. So as I say, I guess locally there are people who will be involved there. So once he got known through INRIX, actually he got approached by Mansfield 103.2, which is actually a commercial station based in North Nottinghamshire. Small footprint, but they are still operating as a commercial radio station. And because he was approached, he was actually offered the drive time show. He was pretty much poached from us to go and do exactly the same show he was doing over at Mansfield. But actually, it was a brilliant move for Matt. He absolutely loved doing it, and he got him paid for doing what he really wanted to do. So a massive success story for us. I mean, Matt has actually moved on from radio now. He's actually followed an alternative career path into the media at Nottinghamshire County Cricket Club. But the fact that he started with us, it just means that it really gives a value to the training and the opportunities that we can offer. So that pretty much brings us to everything that we wanted to share, really, and just to offer the opportunity to ask us any questions.
Sorry, do you want to find out what I did with the microphone? There was a hand that went up somewhere over here. So if you can just wait until the microphone so we can capture it in the video as well. There you go.
Hello, I'm Aaron from Callan FM. And so you launched on FM in 2010, right? And when did your academy start?
I'm not sure. So I mean, I'll let Jeff answer around the academy bit itself. I mean, it's the line as to where the academy started versus our training program is probably a slightly blurred one.
Okay. Yeah, it is. So we pretty much, within, I would say, about 6 months, started to do a little bit of training. It was probably about 2.5 years in, because what Paul said about literally the training was literally in our application just because we thought it would help. Yeah. Then we decided we would do some training and we started to see the results. And then we really became passionate about training. So I would say we launched the academy about 2.5 years later is where we really started to move towards where we are now.
Okay. And what did you do with your existing volunteers? Did you put them through that program with you, or did you coach them?
Yeah, we did a bit of both. So we did put some through the program, certainly, and we also coached the others. What tended to happen, and this is what will happen with untrained volunteers, a lot of our untrained volunteers, to start with, to be honest with you, left. And again, that was our fault, because they were untrained and they didn't feel that they could reach the standard of some of the volunteers we had that did we reach the standard. They literally left. We lost volunteers because of that. So a lot of them never even got on the training path. And, you know, I'm really quite disappointed, even ashamed about that, to be fair.
Thanks for the presentation, fantastic. Tim Beach from WCRFM. I just wanted to ask a question about how you're delivering the training. Who's actually doing that for you?
We do it ourselves. So we've got a team, which you can see the team on our website. It's a very small team at the moment, but it's mainly me, Paul. We've got a guy called Pete Hallen, who used to do the Capital Breakfast Show in Nottingham before Ronan Kemp kicked him out. Another guy called Mark O'Sullivan from Touch FM. So a very small team, but we're carrying it out. And Jackie Brewster, who's another one of our trainers, she trained with us. She came through our academy and eventually went to work for Radio Derby, and now comes back and gives back by actually being one of our trainers as well.
Yeah. And where are you pulling in the resources from for the training itself and for the programs?
Some of our training we charge for, and some is funded either through organisations who buy it from us, like Majatu, who will buy a block of training from us. And as I say, other organisations and partnerships we work from. We've done lots of stuff with schools, A-level, and students who schools have literally paid for us to get good marks on their A-level results. So we also work with universities, Derby and Nottingham Trent. Pretty much anywhere that's worked for us and can fund, then we're on board.
Hello, I'm Yasmili from Fiesta FM,
Oh, yeah.
Marketing and Promotion Manager. Thank you for the presentation. My question is, what sort of qualification do you need to have as a trainer to get accreditation for as an academy?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. Do you want to take that, Paul?
I can take that, yeah. I mean, this is one of the real beauties of working with NCFE. I mean, obviously, there are other accrediting organisations that you can work with, but NCFE starts from the basis that people with industry experience are the most knowledgeable trainers. So although NCFE don't deliver training, as in train-the-trainer type qualifications themselves, what they look for is for people who have the knowledge that they are competent in being able to deliver the training. So in the crudest of senses, in a typical course for NCFE, is you would need to be at least one level higher on a course to what you're delivering. But ultimately, when it comes to radio in particular, they want the knowledge and the experience. So if you've got years of community radio experience behind you, and you've had influence as well from people who've worked in commercial radio, is that certainly for delivering the radio courses with someone like NCFE, gives part of that accreditation process. So as I say, it's kind of two strands, is that who are your trainers, and it's also around what you're going to offer in terms of as an organisation. So there's a lot of policy writing bits, which is part of how you become an accredited centre, but ultimately it comes down to the people who are going to be delivering the courses. And that is also checked upon when they come to moderate the courses as well. So it isn't just a case of you do it once and say, these are our trainers. Actually, when they come to moderate, they want to come and check and make sure that your CVs are up to date, know who the people are. So it's an ongoing process around that. But certainly you don't have to have delivered formal training to be able to deliver this going forward.
Yeah, hi guys, Nigel Peacock, West Kent Radio. In a non-COVID year, approximately how many people would you train, and what percentage of those stick with you as volunteers?
That's a very good question. So we train, for member-wise, we train around about 25 people a year. And the people that stay with us, actually it's quite high. Out of that, maybe about 15 to 18. And they don't, as I say, depending on their path, they don't all achieve necessarily presenter status, but they tend to stay with us for, for other roles in the station. So I've just trained a guy, for instance, who's just done his presenter training. He doesn't want to present, but he's really interested in working with us at road shows and stuff, which is great. Love it. We ain't got enough of them.
Was that another one? Or? No. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Give the guys another round of applause, please.
Thank you.